Hello everybody, Hassan here from Galaxy Invest. Just a reminder, this is not financial advice, so please do your own research. So today I want to go over CRISPR Therapeutics financials, maybe look at the company's 2020, just how the year went and maybe where 2021 is heading. There's a whole report on their website on it. I just wanted to go over it and maybe see if we can find any information that is relevant to our research when it comes down to this company. So what I'm showing here on the screen is from Hypercharts. This is from a website founded by Gali. He's a big YouTuber on Tesla. So I use this website whenever it comes down to looking at financials on certain companies because there's cool graphs on it and so on. So I just wanted to maybe go over really briefly how it looks. You see here market cap, that's the current market cap, that's the current stock price. And then you can go from quarterly or annual, right? So we'll just leave it off to quarterly for now, and maybe just look at really briefly here in each of the quarters in the past, I guess 3-4 years. You see there was a big spike of revenue jump. This was from their partnership with Vertex. We'll see later where this spike of revenue came from, but you can see generally over the past quarters they've basically been spending more money in terms of their research and development expenses and so on. So I would just wanted to show you guys really that's the trend we're looking at, and this is totally expected. There's nothing new here. Like I mentioned in previous videos, this is a company that's really based on R&D. For now, there's no mass market product, but they are planning to go mass market if they do get the approval, obviously, from their CTX001 program. So we'll scroll down a little bit here. You can see the net income here. Again, this is by quarters. You can see their margins here. Nothing crazy here. I did want to stop just for a second here. Operating expense. You can see here that quarter by quarter the trend is going up, and this is a good sign, right? You want to see this in a company that is investing really into their R&D. You can see that in quarter 3 of 2020 they basically spent about 71 million in R&D, and then the next quarter 82 million, right? So this is increasing, and we'll see just in a second in their website what these expenses came about, right? Like general the G&A expenses, they do explain them in their 2020 report. So we'll take a look at that. So before we even jump into that, I did want to show in Yahoo Finance here. I like going into a particular stock. For example, this of course we're on CRISPR Therapeutics in the holders tab, right? You see the major holders, right, in percentage breakdown, right? And then you see the top institutional holders. A good note to be made is ARK Invest. Basically, they have the largest position, right? This has December 30, 2020. I was mentioned by someone from Twitter that the ARK Invest has been selling. So this number is probably less than what you're showing here. But just FYI, they are the largest institution that holds this stock, and it's always a good idea to look at the major holders breakdown to see what's the percentage of the shares held by insiders, obviously employees, leadership, and so on. You can see even shares held by institutions. So this is quite important when you try to look into a stock. Now, I don't think this should be a make or break, but it's always a good idea to see who are the biggest players behind this type of company. And obviously from here you can see some notable names, ARK Invest. You see some other names like BlackRock, big names, right? And Nikko Asset Management, and so on. So these are big names that are supporting this company, And for a company that has basically no revenue, but that is spending a lot on their R&D, and they've been increasing their expenses in R&D, I think there's something to be told there, right? I think we should all just consider that when we evaluate a company, right? A company that has no mass market product but is planning to go commercial, and they've done the steps to go commercial, such as hiring Philippe Drouet, which we talked about in the previous video, and we'll see just shortly additional comments from the CEO about going commercial. So we'll go ahead in their website here. I wanted to go over their press release, and I just wanted to briefly highlight some points here. So obviously this was released, I think back in February, so this was quite a few weeks ago. Yeah, February 16, they released this to the public, and you see here, I mean, there's not going to be a lot of new information here, but it's always a good idea to take a look at them and to make sure that you remind yourself where this company stand and what the CEO is saying about this company as of this year, right? And it's always a good idea to obviously investigate how the past year went, so that you can sort of evaluate how the following year will go, right? So this is what they're doing here. I think Dr. Stan here, this is a great quote here. He's saying, "We are entering 2021 with a strong momentum and look forward for advancing our programs as we enter a new phase of growth of the company." New phase of growth, right? What does this mean? Just later on, he talks about how in 2021, we expect to complete the enrollment of CTX001 clinical trials and provide data updates for 3 clinical allogenic CAR T programs. We talked about this in the previous videos, so nothing new here. What is great to see him state is this line here. "Additionally, we hope to make meaningful progress in bringing our large-scale manufacturing facility online and in building our commercial infrastructure." So, these are the opening statements, and when you're making such statements, it's because you're looking forward to do these types of things in 2021, right? We're not talking about 2023, 2024. We're literally talking about this year, and I think we're basically finishing the 3rd month of this year. So, we're really into 2021, and these things will be done according to the CEO, of course. And the fact that they're talking about making meaningful progress in bringing large-scale manufacturing facility online and commercial infrastructure, they're basically laying the groundworks, right, to basically go mass market. You wouldn't be making these types of statements if your results from your CTX001 were basically negative or were not going well. Obviously, they're going well. We've reviewed those data from the last presentation. The data is positive. They still have a small way to go. They still have to go through the FDA approval, complete approval. But it's still to be mentioned that the fact that they're making these types of statements, they hired Philippe Drouet to lead that commercial team. I think these are bullish signs, right? And I think we should definitely consider those. So obviously here they're talking about the recent highlights of 2020. They're talking about the Vertex partnership, and obviously how their total of 10 patients were basically cured, and how the results are going really well. And they're doubling down on the idea that they plan on going publishing future trials, right? They plan on entering future trials as the results come up, and as they start filing the necessary information to go in the trials and proceed further. So they're basically repeating this, so nothing new here. We're just going to scroll down a little bit here. They keep talking. Oh yeah, they mentioned type 1 diabetes, the ViaCyte. I think we had a great point on, I think it was 2 videos ago in a previous video of mine. We took a look at that, and their ViaCyte partnership with type 1 diabetes, very, very bullish on it. This is a game changer. I really think a lot of people are looking forward for this program in their pipeline. Obviously here they're talking about the new chief commercial officer. And this, I haven't mentioned this, but this is interesting that in December 2020, so this was like a few months ago, CRISPR Therapeutics announced the receipt of a grant from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to research in vivo editing therapies for the treatment of HIV. Very, very interesting. I think I mentioned this in the previous video, and I corrected myself as well, is that this company is leading the ex vivo gene editing, and they are the furthest in this field. In vivo, I believe Antilia is leading that. However, the fact that they got a grant from Bill Melinda Gates basically means that they're positioning themselves to go in vivo, specifically for the treatment of HIV. There was actually a great paper that was linked by one of the Twitter followers, and he basically mentioned there was a research paper. I'm going to make a video on it hopefully, but this research paper addressed how Cas9 can potentially cure HIV. So I would be very looking forward for this. This is very interesting what's going on here. So you can see this company is not just depending on the specific CTX001 program. They're looking at the other programs such as type 1 diabetes from Biosite's partnership, and hopefully they can look at in vivo gene editing therapies for treatment of HIV. These are big, big unlocks, right? I keep repeating this, but can we really assume a value to curing HIV? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we can do this. If we were to do this, what would be the value in terms of US dollar? I think we both agree it would definitely be a very, very high value for a company that's able to cure it. So very interesting what's going on. But again, they're not the only ones in this field. There are other players as well. So just keep that in mind, that they don't have to tackle every single disease out there. They just have to get a few programs out there in mass market, because that's the first step, right? Actually, the first step is really to get CTX001 commercial. So here they're talking about the Nobel Prize winners, the two founders, Emmanuel Charpentier, which was actually one of the founders of this company. That's why they mentioned that in the release here. They're talking about announcing in July 2020, they entered a lease agreement for a new location in Boston. We mentioned that the future growth for 5 to 7 years. That's really interesting. So they're really talking about getting new locations up. New location, okay. So now we keep going. We keep going here in the post. And this here in April 2020, CRISPR Therapeutics announced that it's under June 2019 collaboration agreement with Vertex to discover and develop gene editing therapies for the treatment of Duchenne muscular dystrophy and DM1. So this line here is very important, and it's not really specifically what happened in April 2020, because there's nothing new here, but I do want to highlight that these are two types of diseases that are very, very known, right, and very important to treat. But look at the value that was given for just these two programs, just from Vertex, right? This is one big pharma company, right? They're giving $800 million just to go over these two programs. Like, what does it say about the other potential disease that they could treat? What are the other potential partnerships that they could establish and receive similar types of grants? I think, again, these are type of speculations that I think everyone should at least speculate if we're going to look at a company that does not have a mass market project yet. I think these are the type of the type of potential unlocks that a lot of bulls are looking forward for. So and the last point I want to make again is in this video is that the cash position of this company, I think, so they hold about $1.6 billion, right, as of December 31st, 2020. And obviously this value increased from the year prior because they raised last summer, I believe they raised some funds there through the stock market. But the point here is that they hold almost 1.7 billion dollars in cash, and knowing 1.7 is a lot, right? And knowing how much they spend per year, you could probably make the calculations that they could, for the next 2 to 3 years, they should be fine in the event that no product is made available in the mass market. I don't believe that will be the case, but in the most bearish scenario, they still have the cash to go and basically survive and not go bankrupt, just by this amount that they have in the bank right now to invest in their R&D expenses and so on. So very, very important point, right? You have some of these companies out there that are very, very R&D focused, but are very tight on cash. Although they could always raise money, the fact that CRISPR today have this much in their bank, and they did raise back in last summer, it should be a positive sign to us all that they're willing to spend in R&D for the next upcoming years because they have the money to do so. And in the worst case scenario where CTX001 doesn't go through FDA approval and mass market never happens or doesn't happen in the next 2-3 years, we know for a fact that they have enough money in the bank to basically continue with the other programs, or basically with CTX001 if there are any delays for whatever reason. So this is very, very good to know. This is when you try to look for a company, you never want to go and invest in a company that is very tight on money, because the chances of decreasing their R&D expenses and the chances of going bankrupt become very, very high. Makes sense, right? If you don't have the money in the bank, then you shouldn't be envisioning to spend that much in the following years. So the fact that they have that is very, very bullish to me anyways. So here they're basically talking about R&D expenses, and I made a note of that when we're looking at those pretty graphs and hypercharts website. But just know that these R&D expenses, it's because they're increased here. The increase is for the years driven by development activities supporting the advancements. So again, this is just reiterating our thesis, right? They're basically increasing their R&D expenses because they have other programs in their pipeline, and they want to double down on basically getting first to market for at least CTX001, and naturally this will increase their R&D expenses as well as their G&A expenses, obviously from hiring and so on. So very, very good information here for 2020, the report. And I think 2021, it's all about getting that CTX001 program out, approved, and getting that mass market / commercial side of things set up so that 2022 can really be a year where their revenues explode through the roof in the event where things really go well. And I don't think we have anything negative to believe that they won't be able to, right? I mean, it is important to consider the worst case scenarios, but when you take a look at these types of grants from Bill and Melinda Gates, the partnership with Vertex, the positive results from the 10 patients from CTX001 so far, to me, this is all giving positive signs. But again, we cannot predict the future. We'll have to see how it goes. And hopefully this video gave you guys a little bit more information as to where they stand in 2021, how did 2020 go for this company, and hopefully how they will proceed for the following months so that 2022 becomes a year where they can really expand on their revenue segment, which obviously means going mass market and commercial. So I hope this helped you guys. Thank you very much for watching. Again, please do subscribe and like. Really, really does help this channel. And again, my goal here is just to provide awareness. This is not financial advice. Please do your own research. And I guess I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much.